already. Here's a week or two later. I haven't had a lot of time because I've been working in my day job. So I've kind of just been finding a little bit of time here and there. I believe since last time I just tried out the power steering on this. I finished this, I didn't have quite enough wrap around this pulley. When I was checking online, I think you want to have at least, I've got it just about, not quite, but at least half of this, or some places they say 120 degrees. Half would be 180. So I think I'm roughly at that to get as much power through this belt transferred to the pulley as much as you can. That seems to be the way to go. So this belt was going flat across here. So it was getting maybe, 80 degrees. So since last time I've done that, got a longer belt, that's done. I've mainly been working on this setup here. So unless you're some kind of farmer that has some weeding on a small scale to do, this might not interest you, but for the people that are interested in this, this is kind of my homemade setup with some things that I have bought. So I have torsion weeders here, and I've got the crest finger weeders here. These yellow fingers that you can see. And I have side knives that I bought. Those are about the only things that I've bought for this whole setup. And I have these old tiller tines here that come off of an old cultivator that I had. I have so basically this is a one pass deal. I have 3 rows. So if you can kind of see at this angle, the garlic would go through the row like this. They sell these setups kind of already made. Everything here is independent. So there's 4 parallelograms. So these here are on parallel arms. So they keep these three. They keep these 3 tines parallel with the ground no matter what the height is, because that's kind of the challenge through a real world field is the elevation is always different, right? You get a rock or a bump, or the tractor sinks. This all has to move kind of independently. So I have 4 of these parallel arms. I have 2 that are set up like this with these 3 tines. They're going to do where the wheel passes. And this tine here, since I'm on hills, this tine here is going to have a little bit of a catch to it. So I'm going to do that in the spring when I see the angle of the hills. Then I have 3 of these here. So these are independent. They are not parallelograms because they only pivot on one point here, which are these finger weeders. From what I've experienced, I've had them with a full unit with everything on and the finger weeders and having them independent. This is awesome because if you have it with the gauge wheel in the front like these need, and this is really important because I spent this is like the 5th year I redo these things every year. I'm redoing them, redoing. I think I have enough experience now to be able to say that this is pretty much the best setup that you will want. I've seen these finger weeders on these. I've seen a lot of people do it. It might work if you're super flat, but I feel like I work pretty hard to make my fields flat. And these, if this wheel here hits a bump up top, these will lift off of the ground slightly, and they don't do a good job. They do a good job when they have roughly this amount of weight, which is just a tubing off of a pivot point and having them down on the ground with nothing else. That seems to be pretty dang good because they sink far enough where those yellow wheels touch, but they don't sink any further. Whereas when you have them with a wheel, with a setup, if you put them down, there's so much weight on this that these are going to push these down. The fingers bend up and really don't do a good job. And vice versa, where if it's too low and these aren't touching enough. So it's always kind of a game of cat and mouse trying to get these to work properly, but having them on their own arm is perfect. And I like having the torsion weeders in the back because these ones, they don't need to be set very perfect in the sense of they have springs on them. So they kind of already follow and keep a certain tension on the ground. And even if they did go a little bit deeper, they're not on the garlic as they are there. These, you want to set them a little bit offset like this. And you have to remember that these torsion weeders, as you have weight on them and you're dragging, they will go off center just a little bit. So you have to remind yourself when you install them, because you're not going to see that underground, but just know that they do back up a little bit. So put them fairly close and then do your tests. And from what I don't like it, but from what I see, you can run these so close where they're actually rubbing off the plant and they're kind of kicking off. But I don't want to wreck the stem on the garlic, or if this goes too deep and actually hits the bulb because I'm doing garlic, not ideal. So I got these 3 arms, and if you're making this whole set, because I don't even know what the price is of this, like I can't even get this done because everything would be custom because it's a very unique setup. A lot of people around my area have GPS on their conventional tractors, and they will be running GPS with or without a 3-point hitch that slides sideways to really get like dialed in precision. Belly tractors like this, maybe there's stuff out there, but to have this exact setup and have everything done in one pass. So yeah, that's about it. So these parallel arms, to come back to these, I have these 2 on opposite sides with tines, and then I have these little guys right here in the middle. I don't know if there's a good angle for these guys, right like here, okay? There's about 8 inches across here, so the arms are only 8 inches tall. They still get a good amount of movement. And down here, I have my side knives. So these are gonna come and cut a little area right beside the plant. I keep it at about 2 or 3 inches on each side. I don't wanna be too close. And they're just gonna dig up those weeds. And whatever's left in the row is gonna be grabbed by the finger weeder. So it's nice to have these in front because this is gonna kind of loosen the soil, where these teeth are gonna wanna dig in just a little bit more, because if you're working in clay or your ground is dry, these will have a hard time digging in. So this is gonna soften the soil and let these guys dig in. And then the tines here, you can just imagine it's a little wire that rubs on the side of the ground there. It just picks up, cleans up the rest. This is one new thing I'm trying this year. I usually have a gauge. You need a gauge wheel on these side knives, or they'll dig into China. I'll usually have one. I don't really have room for a wheel up here. It's kind of an awkward area. You need a lot of room to run, like look at all this stuff, and this all moves independently. So you really need a lot of room front and back to have this operate properly. So instead of a gauge wheel in the front, I'm going to use this. It's an old disc that I cut. I made a little spot there with a half moon. I'm hoping the angle is okay. I don't know if we'll see from here, but look at that angle that I have. It makes a little bit of a skid, right? So that skid is going to do 2 purposes. It's going to be kind of like on a snow plow, how you have skids that will determine the depth of your cutting knife. So this here, or the raker on a chainsaw, so this is just going to be rubbing on the ground. So gauging the depth of the side knives, as well as just the fact that that's rubbing on the ground in the middle of the row. This on its own is going to be enough to disturb weeds and prevent them from growing. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole setup. And then in the middle, I'm not too worried about the middle that much, because back here, I have a monitor for a fertilizer box. So back here, I'm going to have this is also new, possibly from last time. I don't know. I can make a video on how I did that 3-point hitch, because it's a little bit weird under there. I saw that they sold kits, but I was able to make something. I had old international 3-point link arms and kind of made something up. Anyways, fertilizer box is going to be coming back here, and I'll have tines in the middle where I'll have the tubes run just ahead of the cultivator teeth. I'll have teeth like this. So this basically, you can run them back here where it's going to hide it underneath. What I like to do is I'll probably run them in the front here, and the dirt is going to be thrown on each side towards the plant. But this is obviously, it's going to be in the middle. So three rows, and in between those 2 rows here, I'll have those knives, and it's going to throw that fertilizer to each side of the row. So that's for the cultivators. And then back here, there's this here, which is like my arm that's going to lift all this stuff. This used to be a winch. I have it hydraulically now. It's a really tiny 2-inch cylinder with about 5 inches of throw. So I just finished this up. I'm pretty happy with the design. I just have to finish fully welding it. So if you can see pivot point up here, that's welded onto the frame that I have that holds cultivators. And it goes off of another pivot point right here on this arm. So this is a rocker arm that comes through, a little arm to lengthen the throw. And then I had this 2x2 tubing that I had this 2.5 section. This was already done from the previous build, and I thought I'd keep this. And if you can see, there's kind of a nice little, yeah, it's hard to tell on the camera, but there's a profile like this, and that goes down like that. And then from here, I'm going to run my chains down. And this goes up and down with the cylinder, so that's kind of the setup for now. And I just need to clean this up. And that's about it. She'll be ready for paint. I'll try and get a picture or make a video right after painting maybe. That would be cool to see how it is. So, see you next time.